How's it going, everyone? I want to give you guys a heads up on a game that you can play free right now. You can download it over on the PlayStation Store, and it has recently been upgraded on PlayStation 5, so that's good to hear. Elden Ring gets a brand new patch, and a pretty notable one at that, adding a new graphics feature, which is rather interesting given if you did play Elden Ring on PlayStation 5, you might know there were some shortcomings with that game. And Metacritic's 13th annual Game Publisher Rankings have come out, and yes, it's making the rounds right now, definitely fueling some of the fanboy talks, but Sony has taken a #1 spot, pretty interesting ranking all in all. But we'll talk about that at the end of this video. Just found it fascinating how much traction that did get, and how much discourse it caused, although I shouldn't be all that surprised. But more on that in a little bit. First of all, Far Cry 5, a free trial for that is available for the next few days from today until March the 27th, so you can download the entirety of the game and you can play through it. Do bear in mind that the game just got upgraded to 60 frames per second on PlayStation 5. It's not a native PlayStation 5 release, it just unlocks the frame rate and takes it up to 60 FPS, but still, a first-person shooter like this, a big open-world game being played at 60 FPS, definitely beats out 30 FPS. I know sometimes you guys think I make it a little bit too much of a big deal when a game runs at 30 versus 60, but guys, it's 2023, we're on the PlayStation 5 hardware. I can definitely appreciate 60 FPS. I can understand if not every PS4 game is upgraded to 60 FPS, but I will give credit where credit is due for those games that are upgraded to 60 FPS that were PS4 titles. And Ubisoft has done an okay job with upgrading their legacy titles. You know, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Origins, those titles being upgraded. For those of you that like those games, great. Far Cry 5 being upgraded, that's pretty solid. If it was up to me, you know, I'm looking at Assassin's Creed 4, I'm looking at Assassin's Creed Syndicate, games like that. If we could get those at 60 FPS, that'd be really great as well. I don't know if, you know, Ubisoft wants to keep that style of Assassin's Creed in the rear view mirror and they don't want to go back to it. I don't know, but it'd be great to have those at 60 FPS as well. Far Cry is what it is. It's not something that, you know, I am too engaged with these days. Like, I'll play the games and I usually have a pretty good time with them, but it's not like Far Cry 3 where I really dug Far Cry 3. And that's probably because Far Cry 3 was so much of a change of pace from Far Cry 2 that it was a rather engaging game. Where Far Cry 4, Far Cry 5, and Far Cry 6, you know, it's keeping together a formula that works really well. Don't get it twisted, and they probably don't need to really change that formula. I actually ended up enjoying Far Cry Primal probably more than a lot of other people, but nevertheless, free trial available for that. If you never checked the game out, go play it. The entirety of the game is available on PlayStation Plus Extra, so if you do want to play it that way, you can do that, and the game is discounted as a part of one of the many sales that's going on the PlayStation Store right now. It is 85% off for $8.99. And I would say that's a rather good price to buy the game for if you are looking to pick it up. Unfortunately, the Gold Edition isn't on sale, so if you want to pick that up, you can't get that discounted, but hey, it is what it is. Alright, moving on from that, Elden Ring patch notes version 1.09. Now, there's a lot of, you know, fixes, bug fixes, general balance adjustments, things like that. I'm not going to go through everything as far as that's concerned. However, the new feature, Raytracing support, has been added for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and PC versions. Obviously, this is a next-gen only feature, so you can't have this on PlayStation 4 or anything like that. Ray tracing can be activated in the settings menu on the PlayStation 5 version. Go to game options and then you can set ray tracing. Now this is ray tracing shadows and occlusion. You don't have ray traced reflections or anything like that. However, do expect, and they outline it in the patch notes, please note that performance such as frame rate and resolution may be impacted while playing with ray tracing on. The minimum and recommended technical specification to use ray tracing can be found at the end of the patch notes. That's of course for PC, PS5. It is what it is. It'll be interesting to see how ray tracing performance turns out. Do bear in mind that the PlayStation 5 version of Elden Ring did have some issues from a performance standpoint. Don't get it twisted, it's absolutely playable and it's a fine experience, but there were sluggish performance experiences that a lot of people had with the PlayStation 5 version of the game, and that doesn't just remain exclusive to the PlayStation 5 version. On PC, there was a lot of stuttering in the game as well. Elden Ring, as great of a game that it was, I feel like sometimes it is swept under the rug, the fact that the game did have a plethora of technical issues. And I loved Elden Ring, and I'm not a fan, or I should say I'm not a gigantic fan of Souls-like games. Like, they're games that I can appreciate, and I get why people like them, but for me, what I really enjoyed about Elden Ring was the world design, all the different mysteries you can find throughout the game. It felt like you were always finding something new, and obviously the boss fights were really cool and whatnot. I'm a chump when it comes to games like this, and I get absolutely mollywopped. And, you know, you got people out here, you know, playing through these Souls-like games with what it seems like DDR mats. Like, I just can't understand how people, you know, can get that, you know, good at a game to the point where people are doing that, playing it with Guitar Hero guitars. It's super cool, and I'm just like, man, credit to them, because they're doing a great job, and they're getting so much mileage out of a single game and finding different ways to tackle a challenging game. And with Elden Ring and Souls in general, yes, it's challenging, but I always thought, like, these games were relatively fair. And sometimes it is just a matter of trial and error and figuring out what to do. And again, I enjoy the games. Like, I say that I'm not super into these games, but I've literally played every single From Software game at this point. You know, as far as the Souls titles go, and I love Bloodborne. Bloodborne's obviously my favorite, and would love to see an upgrade of that, but Elden Ring was a tremendous game, and I have no qualms about it winning Game of the Year last year, and I know that caused a little bit of controversy with God of War not winning it, Elden Ring taking it, etc, etc. Nonetheless, what I'm trying to say is Elden Ring's a really solid game, and there's a reason why it still holds up at a $60 price tag. You know, Bandai Namco knows that this is a game that people are going to pay top dollar for. From Software games in general tend to hold in price for a long time. You look at Sekiro, and that was published by Activision, that still holds up in price, and like Dark Souls 3, when it goes on sale now, it's still like, I believe, $30 on the PlayStation Store, which is just wild, given that that game came out all the way back in 2016. Nevertheless, that patch is live right now, version 1.09. More of Elden Ring will be talked about, of course, as we do hear more about the upcoming DLC. Lastly, I do want to note, Metacritic's 13th annual game publisher rankings have dropped, and Sony Interactive Entertainment has taken number 1 with an 85.6 average meta score for 2022 releases. Last year, they had a ranking of 2, and last year, I believe Microsoft actually took number 1 spot. Now, it's a little bit misleading when you look at Sony, and I see, like, a lot of PlayStation fans, they don't want to really point this out. Okay, so they had 15 scored products in 2022. 10 of those were distinct games, but when you actually break it down, a lot of those games were PC releases of existing titles. You had God of War, obviously, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, I believe Returnal made the cut as well, and then you had titles like MLB The Show, and also Last of Us Part 1, so a lot of those releases were gonna appreciate the score quite a bit, and also, like, pad out the amount of games that they have published, because if you really look at 2022, I think for the majority of people, Sony first-party published games, MLB is what it is, and that's available on other platforms too. But the 3 games that I think most people would look at as major releases, new releases, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, and Gran Turismo 7. Those were the 3 major new releases. And then you had stuff like Last of Us Part 1, of course, which, you know, that obviously got a really high Metacritic score, but it's a re-release of a game that came out in 2013, got re-released in 2014, and then got another release. And Last of Us Part 1 is great. Like, Last of Us is a classic title, but, you know, that can appreciate the score a little bit as far as that's concerned. And then again, they did push towards this idea of releasing a lot of their games on PC, which is fantastic. I think it's an avenue that it's really great to see that Sony's gone down this route, and they re-released, you know, Spider-Man, a 4-year-old game at a $60 price tag, and people are down to pay $60 because that's a revered game. And no slight against them, but they're just something, if you want to be completely transparent with things like that, you know, a lot of those PC releases did happen, and in fact, Metacritic does have a cutoff of a publisher needs to have published 5 games, I believe, to even be a part of the rankings, and Microsoft didn't even publish 5 games. I believe Sony, even if you eliminate all the PC releases, they still would have easily hit 5 games because you had titles like MLB The Show, Last of Us would still count, etc, etc. But I think when you actually break it down, the 3 major games were Horizon, Gran Turismo, and God of War Ragnarok. And hey, for any publisher, those 3 games being, you know, the console sellers for a year or your console marquee titles, no problem at all with that. And then you throw in Last of Us if you want to as well. you know, that's a pretty solid 4 titles throughout a year. From a single publisher, when you're talking about big marquee titles, and again, if you want to limit it to 3, GT7, Horizon, and God of War, that's pretty darn good to have those 3 games as your headliners for a year. So, just wanted to note that. Pretty cool stat, but I see it making the rounds quite a bit, so I thought I would mention it as well. That's gonna do it for me. Again, Far Cry 5, free trial available until March of 27. Check that out. Elden Ring, brand new patch out now. That's version 1.09. Raytracing is the big inclusion here. And then Metacritic's 13th annual game publisher ranking. Sony takes the #1 spot. Just wanted to clarify, you know, some things that you should know about how that ranking does work. And as far as the high number, that's exactly what I wanted to mention, because I see a lot of people throwing shade at Microsoft for not making the cut, at having only, I believe, 4 games published, and then being like, yeah, Sony, they had, you know, 10 games published, but a lot of those were PC ports. You know, just, I want to clarify things. We're a PlayStation-centric channel over here, but I feel like sometimes it's good to clarify the minutia and the detail, because that can be a pretty misleading statistic. But that's going to do it for me. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. Sound off there. As always, thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.